Hello, everyone, and we are back with Web3 Magic Podcast. Today, it will be an interesting episode because we are going to talk about security. And, I haven't had anybody from security background on the podcast just yet. So this will be a treat for all of us because, in a crypto space, security is kind of talked about a lot. Very few of us actually do secure stuff. We all just click stuff and try to buy something. So I hope we will learn today about some new cool technologies that are coming up that should help us, stay safe. So let me welcome Oren from SphereX on the podcast. Oren, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're more than welcome. As usual, I've met Oren in East Milan, so we just chatted about the fact that it feels like years ago, and it was just not that long ago. It was October last year, so it's probably about 7 months. So I start right away with the first question. How did you get to crypto, Oren? What's your background?
Well, so if looking back, my first crypto experience was around, I think, 2012 or 2013.
Oh,
And
wow, super early.
yeah, it was super early, but I'm not one of those stories that, bought Bitcoin then and hold it until this day. So I'm not one of those stories that, telling you I already got rich from Bitcoin, but I heard of it and I learned a bit about it. And actually I was very fascinated by by this new ecosystem that enables everyone to transfer funds in a truly decentralized ecosystem. But I was actually in the midst of my classic cybersecurity career, so I remained some kind of a bystander, keeping an eye on the development of this ecosystem and space and how things unfold. And then basically in in 2012 I retired from a 21 years old or 21 years long career in cybersecurity from government agencies and so on, and then I started looking for my next move. Web3 immediately attracted me, because it all came back, right? This vision of decentralized and democratized financial ecosystem, based on this blockchain technology. So it combines like a playground for for technical guys, and I'm a technical nerd, and so it combines this technical playground together with this fascinating finance. So it immediately attracted me, and I started ideating and iterating all kinds of ideas, and starting to more heavily gravitate towards it. So I would say that from 2012 2013 as a bystander, as somebody standing and looking interested, but more heavily from 2021, and it's growing in passion and excitement ever since. And it's funny you said that it feels for you like October was years ago, and it feels the same for me too. And I think this is because things are moving very fast in our space.
True. Yeah. Okay. So classic cybersecurity background. Basically, you are tech nerd from the core since you started. Probably first say what Spherex does in like 2 sentences, if you can, for like non-nerds. And then let's get back to it. Like, how did the idea for Spherex came about? Because, there's a lot of, I think, security issues which we have around, blockchain space, crypto, whatever you want to call it, Web3. So why did you choose the topic which you chose?
So it's a good question. When I started diving into Web3, and I'll give a non-nerd sentence about what we're doing. But when I started diving into Web3, I thought of all kinds of ideas. But the thing that led me in my thought, what should I do, was well, the ecosystem is now in its current phase. What should I do? What should the ecosystem or the community do in order to bring it to mass adoption? And generally there was, I think I spotted three main areas that I still think today are the main barriers to mass adoption for Web3. And it's first of all regulation, right? Because normal people, legitimate people, they want to be sure that they comply with the law, and that IRS will not knock on their door tomorrow, or they won't be able to withdraw their hard-earned cash. So regulation is one thing.
Totally.
The other thing is user experience, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
even today the user experience is not gentle and good enough. And the third one is security, right? Because it was tons of security events, a lot of scams, frauds, hacks, and so on and so forth. And among those three, being a security expert in classic cybersecurity, it was some natural that I will go for the security.
Mhm.
And now, in a nutshell, what Spheerex is doing is basically, if you divide Web3 into three, I would say, entities. One is the end users. Second is, I would say, the infrastructure, right? The blockchains themselves. And third is the companies or the projects building applications on top of blockchains, right?
Mhm.
So we are building a security solutions for the application builders, for the protocol owners, the DeFi protocol, smart contracts developers, and so on. And basically, what is special about our product or our solution is that it blocks malicious transactions before they're finalized. So it runs during runtime. It's not something that, in pre-deployment explains you how to build your code, or runs in some kind of monitoring and says, well, something bad happened, but it actually blocks malicious or suspicious transactions before they're finalized.
Mhm.
Now,
Can I ask a question before we
sure,
continue? I don't want to stop your train of thought, but it just occurred to me it's probably good to say that normal user would not really know that you did something, right? It's not like these MetaMask warnings, this looks suspicious, or do you really want to click, or whatever. Am I correct?
right. It, actually, so this is one of the things that we're trying to stress, right? The principle of verifiable security. So when a user comes to invest his money or interact with some kind of protocol, they're usually not aware of what did this protocol or the project owners did regarding security. So one of the things that we're thinking of is creating some kind of badge, like you and me, when we surf a website, you see this badge icon of a lock, right? And then you understand that it's SSL secured and it's safe, right? So
Sure.
as a user, you don't understand necessarily what is SSL, how it works, but you understand, well, my data is encrypted. So we're also thinking of something like that once we protect the protocol and the funds inside are secured, you as a user will have this notification that says, well, you're investing your money in somewhere that is secured, right?
Mhm.
But it does not interfere with your day-to-day or routinely interaction with this protocol.
I see. Sounds like a
So
cool idea.
and you thought, and you asked how did it originated, and
Yeah.
being a nerd, I think it originated in some kind of thought-provoking challenge, because after reading tons of materials on and technical material and discussing with all kinds of people I know from the space, uh, you know it seemed like the missing piece of the puzzle, what we're building, this real-time protection, is an impossible. It's impossible to build something like that,
Mhm.
and the reason is that blockchains were designed as decentralized, permissionless, and censorship resistant, right?
Right.
So that means that there is no single point in which you can take every transaction, analyze it, make sure that it's complies with legitimate behavior or it's safe, and then decide what passes and what is blocked. And
Sort
so
of censorship on a security side.
right. So you want to create a security solution that is securing the protocol, but still it remains decentralized, permissionless, right, and censorship
Mhm.
resistant. So we started, with me and my co-founders, thought no way we can solve this challenge, right? It's not a teleportation or time travel, right? It sounds like something
I
that
would
should be
love
solved.
that, though.
Yeah, if you have an idea for time travel or teleportation, let's open a startup together. So it all unfolded from there, right? A lot of talks and brainstorming, talking until midnight and even beyond, and until we came up with this idea that says, well, if you want to protect the decentralized system or decentralized smart contract, you should do it with your own smart contract, right? You should use the same, I would say, tools of trade or the same thing that is used to build those decentralized application. You should use this in order to protect them. So this is basically where the idea came from and how it unfolded.
Mm-hmm. Okay, pretty interesting. So how many co-founders do you have? How many of you guys?
It's me and my co-founder. So we
So
are
two of
both
you. Oh,
with an extensive experience in cybersecurity, from government intelligence agencies. And my co-founder was also the CISO of the largest bank in Israel. So we also bring, as a team, a lot of experience from traditional finance and security for traditional institutions.
got it. Still very, very interesting. So you guys got together with the, I would say, with the decision. You have decided that you want to start a company which works in the blockchain space. And you were basically looking for the best entry point, which would be challenging and interesting for you to work on for the next years.
Yeah, so it started with the passion for Web3, and the ecosystem and the technology of blockchain, and it continued to the place that we wanted to make a difference, to build something that will make a difference, not yet another application or yet another feature, but something that can make a difference in, will this exciting vision that we're very passionate about can become a reality. So
Mm-hmm.
this is what guided us, and of course, bringing our mutual experience from the cybersecurity was also a great plus, right? Because if you can take your experience and bring this impact to a new world, it's something that is very, I would say, powerful.
Right. Absolutely. So let's jump a little bit forward. So where is SphereX now? How do you guys, well, basically, where are you now with the product, with the team, and how do you feel about the journey since the release last year in the summer till now? What was the reception and how is it going?
Great. So we basically officially released the product in August of 23, together with the announcement. And basically ever since, we are pushing the gas pedal harder and harder on the marketing and the sales, and we already have paying customers. So we're making good advance on this side. But I think that the main challenge that we've experienced and we are still experiencing is the market education. Because if you look at
I
the
would have thought
industry,
so.
yeah, if you look at the industry standard right now for smart contracts, then it's mainly auditing on one side and monitoring on the other side.
Mhm.
But auditing is not enough, right? Because you see projects that are audited even multiple times are still hacked, and monitoring is like a security camera, right? It tells you that something bad happened already after it happened, right?
Yep.
But still, audit is actually, it's practically standard, right? Even
Yep.
though it's not a regulation standard or something like that, but it's a
Most
self.
people do it. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you meet new protocols or potential customers, and you're asking them, well, what are you doing about security? What makes you up? What makes you up at night, or things like that? They usually are saying, well, we have concerns about security, maybe compromised keys, and so on. But well, what are you doing about it? It's audit. And the more advanced protocols are saying, well, we've done maybe 2 or 3 audits, but also monitoring. And we're telling them, what about preemptive approach? Right? In classic cyber, preemptive approach is a must, right?
Mm.
So the market education to lead them to the point that they understand that they can't gain user trust without a preemptive solution is I think the main challenge that we experience.
Right. So I think So does the challenge come from the fact that people actually think it's not possible to do? Because that honestly, when I first read your website after we've met, and I read what what Spherex is supposed to do, I was like, this just sounds like it's not possible. And I'm not a security expert nor the smart contract expert, nothing like that. But I can imagine that some people, living in the blockchain space for a long time, basically got to the point that they think it's not possible, so they just, they don't hear it.
So you maybe you're telling about yourself that you're not a technical guy, but you have I would say a very good eye on this, because it's exactly this. After we explain what we're doing, we get a lot of questions, that are trying to verify, are you really doing what you're saying you're doing? Because it's actually one of the challenges, on the market education. If you're coming with a new promise, you should, if we go back, to the teleportation, if I tell you that I can teleport people, then you had a lot of questions before you asked me how do I do it. You'll have all kinds of validation questions to make sure that I'm not lying, right? It's really a teleportation, it's the same body, and so on and so forth. So it's one of the also one of the challenges that we are facing. Maybe we'll take one or two examples.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning of the road, there was a hack on the Qubit bridge, Qubit Finance. It was a very famous hack. Eventually, I think the damage was about $80 million. So it's a great hack.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the hack. So after the hack, like mushrooms after the rain, many people publish all kinds of post-mortem analysis. And people are saying, well, what could have been done better? How did they, monitoring firms are saying, well, we could have spotted it once it happened, and so on and so forth. But when we looked at this incident, and we actually wrote an article about it, and we really analyzed what if we would have protect this protocol, then we discovered something very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, 3 weeks before the attack itself, there was a mini attack. Right? Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, the attacker, think of it like that one. But you have
Like a test.
yeah. The attacker actually tested if he's capable of stealing money, but he stole about a cent. So nobody paid attention, right? And that means that it's too late to say, well, $80 million were stolen. You could have done things better.
Yeah.
But it's much more important to say how you could have prevented it in real time if you were there, right? And this is one example, and we actually show how if you would have installed Spheerex back then, where there was no product of Spheerex back then, but since blockchain everything is public, then we can simulate. So and then we found this mini hack. This is one example. Another example, which is very recent, from November 23, is that we were in discussions with ThirdWeb. I don't know if you know ThirdWeb. It's a very big infrastructure company that they're building basically template contracts for everybody to use.
Right.
And we created this proof of concept for them. So we uploaded one of their contracts together with our protection. And it was, I think, November 21st. And then in December 4th, they published that they had a big vulnerability, right? Which also relates to Open Zeppelin contracts. And basically, since we deployed our protected contract in November 21st, we didn't know about this vulnerability. But if you go back to this contract, and it's still live until today, this contract is, although it's vulnerable, it's protected by Spheerex, and you can't attack it, right? So this is exactly what we're trying to build here, right? You are supposed to protect protocols from those vulnerabilities or hacks that you didn't expect yet, right? And I think this is
Interesting.
The mission statement, or what is the different thing that we're trying to do here.
Okay, sounds cool. So if I'm a user of any, let's say whatever product there is, and the product is using Spheerex, and I am, alluded into a transaction which is probably malicious and you guys will catch it. What will it look like for me? Will the transaction just fail, or I won't be able to actually initiate it or finish it? How does it look from the user perspective, if it's possible to describe?
Yeah, sure, of course. So from the legitimate user perspective, it's it's seamless, because let's suppose you deposit, you have 100K dollars hard-earned cash, and you want to invest it somewhere. So you invest it in maybe a lending protocol, swapping protocol, whatever that is protected by Spheerex. So your transaction is a legitimate transaction. It will be approved, it will be processed and finalized, and everything is okay. But 3 weeks later, then comes the attacker or the hacker and tries to steal your money, or actually steal the total value locked on that protocol, and his transaction will fail, right? So basically, we're not protecting your transaction, but we're rather protecting your funds in that protocol.
In the protocol. I see.
Exactly.
Now, I think you made it fairly real for like normal people.
It's like, securing the bank, right? You put your money in the bank, or you get your salary into the bank. And if somebody is trying to rob the bank and the bank is preventing it, you never know about it, right? All you know is that if you have $100 in the bank, then when you want to withdraw, you want to see those $100 back, right? You won't settle for
Hopefully.
less.
Yeah. Is there a way for normal users to actually know which contracts are protected by Spherex right now, or not?
Yes, there is a way. Right now, it's more for, I would say, more technical-minded people, but we are working on making it transparent for regular users. Right now, basically, if you have a protocol that you want to work with, and you go to Etherscan, and want to look at the code, you will see Spherex, the fact that it's Spherex protected there. So
Got you.
it's transparent, but not everybody are using Etherscan. So what we're doing is we're building collaborations with all kinds of wallets or wallet protection systems that once you want to interact with a protocol that is protected by Spherex, you get this badge like we spoke before, like an icon
Yeah,
of
that would be lovely.
right.
Is it coming?
Yeah, soon enough.
Yeah. Okay. So that leads me naturally to the next question. So what's up for Spherex in 2024? What are you the most excited about? I know you guys were at East Denver. That was probably big enough for you. If you want to share anything from there, it would be lovely. And then we can look forward. What's coming?
Yeah, we've been to East Denver. I think it was well. First of all, it was very, I would say, an optimistic experience for me, right? Because even though we are when we met back then in October of 23, it was deep in the bear cycle, right? The bear market.
Yeah.
But now the value of Bitcoin is much higher than
Double.
back then, and also the Ethereum, right? And it's more, the ecosystem is more vibrant. But it was a very optimistic, I would say, experience for me, because you meet a lot of builders and teams that are building in the space, and VCs investing in the space. So you understand that there's a future, right? It's not something that is a niche. You see a lot of people, a lot of VCs. So there's a lot of capital, and a lot of great teams. So this on that experience. There's also something that you see the amount of side events, right? So there's the main event,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, it's hundreds of events. You can never be on all of them.
Yeah.
And you understand that there's a real big industry here. So this is something that was very upside, from the fun of meeting a lot of new people, and hanging around in Denver and so on. Was a very, I would say, optimistic and a good experience. I think that looking forward in 2024, so our main challenge is create the adoption of our product, right? We want to bring this bigger vision of Spherex, but you have to start with more paying customers, right? To make sure that we're aligned with the product market fit. So the main challenge would be, to onboard as many customers as we have as we can, and I would divide it into two, I would say, categories. First of all is onboarding protocols, DeFi protocols, and applications and so on. And the second one would be collaborating with ecosystems like chains, layer 1 chains or layer 2 chains, in order to bring this to their ecosystems. So we're also talking with foundations of layer 1s and layer 2s, but also talking with customers. And further down the road, we might go for another fundraising. So 2024 is going to be definitely exciting. I know this bull cycle brings a lot of anticipation, and I think that 2024 is going to be great for Spheerex. I'm completely bullish.
Okay, nice. Well, you actually just brought up to my mind the question. It's like, how long do you think this bull cycle will last?
Wow. Yeah, I'm not a prophet. It's hard to say. I really
At
don't
least
know.
2024.
Yeah, at least for 2024. Yeah, but when people ask me, when I started in this journey, asked me what are you looking for in this Web3 blockchain, whatever, and I was always saying that I'm not here for the speculation or the value of
Obviously.
Bitcoin, but I'm rather bullish on the technology, on the ecosystem, on the vision. So even if this bull cycle lasts for, I don't know, 18 months or 24 months, I'm still bullish on the technology and the ecosystem, because bull cycles come and go. But
Yeah.
I think for the long run, it's here to stay.
Oh, absolutely. I'm also bullish. I think as a company with existing product, which is growing and is basically being improved every day, you guys kind of have, I would say, the best position to ride the bull cycle or just stay over the bear and improve and connect with everybody who stayed. It's actually, I think everybody kind of feels it. It's easier to connect with people in the bear because there's less of them. And those who stayed are kind of big believers in the Web3 blockchain technology, not really chasing the next coin. So I guess from that perspective, it was easier. People were also less busy. I can say from the podcast perspective, it was easier to set up the dates
Yeah.
with people. But it's getting there. Let me see if I have some secret question for you. Oh yeah. So two questions. So one is there anybody else working in the same space as you? So if we ignore the audits, of course, and monitoring, because it's let's say it's a security, but it's kind of different security space. Is there anybody else doing the same thing you are?
So right now, we are the first mover in this vertical. There are, or at least there were, some projects that were doing this in the past, but didn't succeed in the implementation.
Okay.
So we're kind of a first mover in the sense that a working and operational product. But we already see, if you're the only one in a existing vertical, either you're very early and you're going to succeed big time, or you're somewhat crazy, right? Because you're building something that no one wants. But we're getting the signals that we see big companies in security of Web3 that were not in this vertical up until today, that are starting to think of how they start providing or developing solutions like we have. And we also see competitors from the monitoring also taking a look how they can provide something that is similar to ours, because we've been talking with colleagues from monitoring. So they experience when they're selling their monitoring products, but they experience their customers saying that, okay, monitoring is good, but will you be able to prevent something once it happens? So we see we have the I will say the privilege to be the first movers with the first operational product, but it won't last long. So I can see during 2024 or maybe a bit after, we will have competition, which is a good thing, right? More people,
Sure.
educating the market, and so
Yeah. It typically leads to a better product on all sides, honestly. Interesting. So, if it's not a secret, how many customers do you have? And you can tell me just a ballpark. You don't have to like 21, or is it tens, hundreds, or thousands?
no, not we're not yet in the hundreds. We are,
Intense. Okay.
yeah.
And for the perspective for anybody who's listening, so typical, security company working in Web3 on monitoring side, they would have hundreds of customers or thousands.
I think also if I'm looking at the prominent monitoring firms, they also have tens of customers.
Right. That's
Uh,
what I thought, because it seems to me always that, security in Web3 is a big topic, but everybody has kind of, I would say, small pool of, sometimes big customers, but like relatively small pool. If you look, into Web2, and when we talk security, people basically talk in thousands, millions, whatever. So the numbers are very different. Of course, the logic and the security is also different, but just for the perspective.
yeah, I
Cool.
think you're completely correct. I think that blockchain and Web3 is still a fairly, I would say, new phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
So the market is still small, and that's why we're talking, and most of the security companies are talking in numbers of tens and not hundreds, and for sure not thousands. But I think that all those who are bullish expect this hockey stick to arrive, right? And once there will be mass
Always.
adoption, there will be more. And we see, by the way, we already see the big banks in the world taking a look and starting their projects of tokenization, real world assets,
Right.
and so on. So once that movement will be, I would say, more significant, then we can start talking in hundreds of customers and more.
Mhm.
But it's not there yet. Like I said, I'm very bullish on both the Web3 and of course Spheerex. And I think that once that hockey stick begins, we will be in a very good position to skyrocket.
I definitely wish that for you. So, two last questions, actually. I said that before, but I just came up with one more. Can you say, is it possible to say, it's like, what should users look for just to know that, the protocol is sort of trustworthy? Of course, the first sign would be look whether it's protected by Spherex, but is there some general guidance to, look for?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that the first thing you should look at is the reputation of the team that's building that project, right?
Oh,
Because you want to make sure software software developers always make mistakes, right? We're all humans.
right. Yeah.
But if the team that's building the project is anonymous, then they're not accountable for mistakes they're doing, right? You want to make sure that the team behind this project is a team that it has faces. These are people with experience. They're auditing their code with reputable auditors. You want to make sure that there's somebody behind. Well, you're going to invest your hard-earned money in that protocol or that project, and someone is behind this project, right? And you want to make sure that this someone is putting the effort and minimizing the chances of mistakes or errors. So I say this is the first thing. The other thing I would say is decentralization and continuity. And that means that all this, the promise of Web3 is around decentralization, right? Because
Right.
if we're back in centralized applications, then you want to make sure that it's heavily regulated, but if we're talking about decentralized applications, you want to make sure that the application that you're looking at is really decentralized. And that means that you also want to look is it on chain, what chain is it on, how are they referring to decentralization, and this brings another thing of continuity, right?
Mhm.
You also want to make sure that I would ask, if I would invest in any project, I would ask the project owners, what happens if somebody is trying to attack your protocol? And there are many answers for that, but I wouldn't get if the answer was, well, we have a monitoring solution, and once somebody is trying to attack us, we pause the protocol. So it's good that I don't lose my money, or at least damage control doesn't make me lose all my money. But I wouldn't want to work with a bank that closes on with one fraudulent check, right? You want to make sure that
Right.
it's 24/7.
Yeah.
So I think it's continuity, it's the reputation of this protocol, and if you're going for reputable teams, almost immediately you are far away from scammers, fraudsters, and so on, right? So
Right.
I would say
Makes
these
sense.
decentralization is the ethos of this community.
Okay.
Continuity, making sure that you're never locked away from your funds, and I think most importantly is the reputation of the team behind this project.
Okay. Lovely. Thank you. And so the last question is there any dream client you would like to get in 2024? Is there any dream client you would like to get in 2024?
Yes, of course, but I think that, and I will name them in a minute, but I think that those won't be the early adopters. So the dream
Mm,
client, of course, would be like Uniswap or
right.
Aave, the big players
Big
of the
players.
field, the huge DeFi protocols that have billions in their TVL. But I think that much like it's the nature of human beings, right? Usually the
Mm,
bigger players are not the early adopters and the fast movers, right?
yeah.
But if you ask me to dream, so I'm dreaming, then it would
Sure.
be, Uniswap, Aave, and such protocols. Maybe
Yeah, I think you have to put it out there, so it could happen.
yeah, definitely.
Nice. Okay. So I will, get all the links into show notes, of course. And is there any last words which you would like to say to the listeners before we jump off?
I think I've said it all. Thank you very much for having me. It was, a very interesting talk, and
Well, thank
thank you
you
for
very
the
much
opportunity.
because, never had a security expert on the pod till now. And this looks like an awesome, piece of technology which you are definitely reputation in the space. I would certainly love it if it would be so transparent that, like when you see the log on HTTPS, so you would see something like SphereX. And I definitely wish you guys all the best in 2024. Thank you, Oren.
Thank you very much.